right, well, welcome. Good morning. We're here for our spring kickoff for our podcast to kick off our spring speaker series. Chris Cassidy's our guest today from the Medal of Honor Museum, and we're excited to just be kicking off this spring, and thankful Chris is here. So, Chris, welcome.
Yeah, my
First
pleasure.
of all, thank you for your service to our country, all you've done, just exceptional service. We'll get into that and kind of the new role as president and CEO of the Medal of Honor Museum. So glad you're here. Welcome to Fort Worth today.
Appreciate it. Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, you've got quite the list of accomplishments. We'll get into those. Navy SEAL, U.S. astronaut on the space station, now with the Medal of Honor Museum. But let's kind of go back to your youth and growing up. I think you grew up in the Northeast in Salem, Massachusetts. Tell us a little bit about just kind of family life as a young boy. Were there any dreams, aspirations of doing any of these things, becoming an astronaut or in the Navy?
Yeah, I was actually born in Salem, Massachusetts, but I was a real little guy when we moved to Maine. So all of my youth is associated with a small town in Maine, York, Maine. My dad actually owned a restaurant in Bath, Maine, which nobody in Fort Worth knows the geography of southern Maine very well, probably. But Bath is a town where there's a shipyard, and it's in Bath Iron Works, and a real kind of working
blue collar
working town. And so I remember as a really little guy just being around that restaurant all the time and seeing the people coming and going and being around. They build Navy ships, and so that was kind of cool. And then the restaurant didn't work out, and we moved to another town closer to the southern border near New Hampshire, and that's where I think a lot of the values that I have are from those early experiences, watching my mom and dad work really hard at the restaurant, which is a hard business, and then moving to a town that was a coastal sort of vacation spot for Massachusetts folks and others that would drive up in the summertime. And I worked a lot of jobs as a young guy, bussing tables and washing dishes and stocking this storeroom at a couple of restaurants, and then realized I like being outside. So then I shifted to mowing lawns, and I mowed lawns all as a grown up kid, and learned to work hard and appreciate the value of a good day's work, and the money in your pocket being yours that you earned. And that those are all things I didn't know I was learning as a young guy, but I was. And then also one time my summer job was picking corn at a nearby farm, and I was the youngest kid there, and I got teased a lot by the older kids, and they greased my bicycle seat and all, little things that kids do. And that also taught me to, because my parents said, hey, just talk to them, deal with the situation. And it kind of taught me as a young age, hey, you're in charge of your own self, and don't be scared. Stand up for what's right. Do the right thing. Show up on time. Work hard, and that will be respected more than anything else. And it's true. I was always a good worker. Anyways, I'm sort of rambling here, but just doing that in the summers and playing sports during the school year is what I did. That's all I did. And in a small town in Maine, you could play football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and track or baseball in the spring, and everybody did it. It seems uncommon in Texas, or even just in today's day and age, where kids tend to pick a sport early and stick with that sport because there's different teams of that sport all year long. And I loved playing multiple sports, and I was always a pretty good athlete, but I realized at some point in there that it wasn't going to get me a scholarship to school. And I had to pay for school somehow. And that's how I got interested in the military, just simply as a way to pay for college.
Well, you definitely had a good work ethic instilled in you by observing your parents, your own life experiences. And I love that about not crying and going to your parents for help when the older kids kind of, hey, work it out, figure it out, talk to them. That's great. We'll talk a little bit about how you ended up at the Naval Academy. So was any one person or some influence in your life responsible for getting you to the U.S. Naval Academy? How'd you end up there?
It's an interesting story, actually. So you probably remember the guidance counselor's office with the big
Yeah.
books of schools,
yeah.
you know, the old school internet way of searching for colleges.
Right.
And I was doing that, flipping through pages, and I came across the Naval Academy. And I just loved the way it looked, the pictures and the cool, sharp-looking men and women marching. And then on further down on the page, it says it's free to go here. You just have to apply. And I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And then it said you have to be in the Navy for 5 years after. And I didn't really know what being in the Navy meant. But I thought, well, this looks cool. And those guys, I like their uniforms, and I like discipline. I like people that are all working together. So why not try it? So I applied. It's actually an interesting story, which I'll share because right after this podcast, we're going to have a luncheon, and I'll share with the lunch folks. But I'll tell you here too, because it's fundamental to who I am, is the person that helped me with the application process. In my small town, there was nobody that knew how to do the process. So I was kind of on open field running as a 17-year-old trying to figure out.
Did you need a sponsor from a state senator?
So that's exactly right.
You,
and I read that you have to apply to your congressman's or your senator's office, and I did. And they liked the paper application apparently, and they invited me for an interview. So I went to the interview with the congressman's staff, and at the end of it, the lady said, "Okay, good job. We'll take care of it from here." And so this is the fall of my senior year in high school. And I even asked, "You don't need anything else? You're good?" "Nope, we got it. We'll take care of you." So 6 months later, the spring of my senior year in high school, finding out from other schools, yes or no, and all my friends are too, but I heard nothing from the Naval Academy. So I called the admissions office, and a very friendly person answers the phone. "Oh, sure, I can help you out. What's your name?" I tell her my name. "What's your social security number?" I hear files rummaging through. Spell your name? "I'm sorry, we got nothing on you." So it turns out I missed the key piece of information. You have to apply to the congressman's office and to the school. It's two separate things, and I didn't know that. So here we are late in the school year, and I effectively hadn't applied to the place I really wanted to go, and I needed the financial help. But here's where life is interesting. As you know, like some stuff just works out the way it's supposed to. My best friend's dad had a business trip to Washington, D.C. the next week, and my buddy and I planned to join his dad and do D.C. sightseeing stuff during our spring break, which was that week.
Yeah.
And so I did with my friend, and I took one afternoon now and went over to Annapolis, which is like 30 minutes away from D.C., went into the admissions office. She recognized my story. I recognized her voice. She said, "Yeah, you're in luck. Captain Malillo, Marine Corps captain who covers the New England region for admissions, he's in his office right now. He can help you out." I walk down
perfect timing.
Perfect timing. I walked down to his office. I turned the corner. I never met a military person in my life. And I turned the corner, and there's the poster child Marine Corps representative, like totally squared away and fit, guns bulging out of his arms, fit, square jaw, haircut, shoes that are immaculate, the whole thing. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I even thought in my head, I'm like, well, if you want to go to the Naval Academy, you got to not be intimidated by this guy and tell him your story. So I did. He, a few small questions, and then said, "Okay, I'll get back to you." I'm sorry, this is a long story, but it's important. So I said, "Okay, thank you." Left, drove back to my hometown thinking, well, at least I tried. I got to come up with plan B, but clearly it's not for me, this place. The next week I'm in school, and it's him. He called to the main office, and I go for a phone call, and he goes, "Hey, Cassidy, it's Malillo down at the Naval Academy. I got good news. I can get you into the Naval Academy prep school, but I need an answer on this telephone call if you are in or not." I didn't know where it was, what it meant, nothing, but I just kind of knew, okay, this is my chance. And yes, sir, thank you. And the reason I tell that story is because if it wasn't for the gift of an opportunity by that gentleman who didn't know me, he could have seen me as a knucklehead 17-year-old that every other kid got the process right. How come this goofball didn't? But he gave me the gift of an opportunity.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for him reaching out to me in a small way, probably you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Right. He put you on a trajectory that could have been a lot different.
I would have gone to some other school and done something else and life took me in this direction because of him. I entered the Navy. Because I got in the Navy, I got in the SEAL teams. Because I was in the SEAL teams, I got selected by NASA.
Yeah.
And after my NASA career, I ended up right here in Fort Worth, building the Medal of Honor Museum, all because, and truly believe this, all because of an opportunity that one person gave me.
Have you stayed in touch with him?
Well, here's the beauty of that story. I never saw him again.
Wow.
And my wife has heard me tell this story because I do a lot of public speaking, and I share this story because it's so important to me. She's probably heard it 100 times. And before my last space launch in 2020, we were having a party for friends and family in a venue, and she never asked me what I'm going to say public speaking wise, but that day the couple days leading up to the party for the friends and family, she's like, "What are you going to tell everybody?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just going to say, see ya in 6 months." And she's like, "No, you should tell Captain Malillo. Tell Captain Malillo." I was like, okay, I'll tell it. So I tell that story, and right I'm at the punchline, she stopped me and said, "Hold on, Chris. Captain Malillo, please stand up." She had tracked him down
God.
30 some years
Wow.
later, found the guy, convinced him that she wasn't a nut job, and invited him to Boston where the party was. And he and his wife came, and I finally got to shake his hand, give him a hug, and look him in the eye and say, "Thank you."
Yeah, no doubt. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
So I'll share that today.
Yes, by all means. So
Yeah.
you were the first in your family. You didn't have older siblings, uncles that had gone to the Naval Academy. You were really the first in your family to go that route.
My dad did a very short 2-year, I think, Vietnam draftee, and then he got out of the Marine Corps when he didn't have to be in it anymore. But it was just a quick stint back in the Vietnam timeframe. But other than that, no connection to the military.
Yeah, that's great.
We watched the Army-Navy football game every year, and that was my connection.
Well, there's a lot of perceptions about Navy SEALs, the intensity of the training, the missions. You know, it's got a little bit of an aura to it, a mystique. Tell us about your experience and what you found it to be like being a Navy SEAL.
I was a little bit aware of that aura and mystique as I was pursuing if it would be something I'd be interested in, or if I could do. But again, I graduated from Annapolis in 93. So I was a plebe in 89. And that, pre-internet, pre-Navy SEALs being a name that everybody knows about. So I didn't even know what the heck, never even heard of a Navy SEAL till I got to Annapolis.
Do they recruit you and see things in you that say, you? Okay, they don't.
No. The Naval Academy's job is to produce naval officers.
Yeah.
And therefore they have representatives from all the different communities in the Navy on staff there. So they do a wonderful job of educating you, enlightening you of what the options are, but by no means recruiting. Yeah. And so there was a great SEAL mentor there who guided myself and my classmates as for to see if you could do that. So I had a little bit of exposure to the mystique of SEALs. And one summer, I guess summer between my junior and senior year, my classmates and I went, who were interested in BUDS, which is SEAL training. We went to Coronado and spent a month doing it. And that was my first kind of peek behind the curtain. Yeah. But not really until I started SEAL training and I'm around it and go, okay, I can do this. Cause you're just kind of intimidated as a young person, like, holy cow, can I do this? Is it in me? Yeah. Am I going to quit on the first bell? And then you get in there, as with anything, right? If a kindergartner is scared, crying, dragging, totally frightened to go in on day one, the mom comes back at lunch and the kid's fine because uncertainty is gone. Right. You know what you got your arms around. And same thing for me with SEAL training. Yeah. And I could go on more, but that was the initial exposure. And then as you get more and more involved in around other people, you realize it's just all people trying to work hard to get a mission done. Yeah.
Well, I believe this is right, Chris. You're one of 3 people who have been both a Navy SEAL and a U.S. astronaut. So remarkable, one of 3 people. So both very elite clubs. Tell us a little bit how those positions, your experience informs how you make decisions, how you lead people from being part of those 2 groups.
Yeah, those 2 groups are exclusive or whatever the word is. But at the end of the day, they're in both cases, SEAL and astronaut, there's a small team of people trying to accomplish a risky mission. So you got to balance information and decision making with risk, and you're supported by a giant support network behind you. And at NASA, it's the Mission Control Center and all the smart engineers that are supporting the operations. In the military, it's the supply, logistics, communication teams that are omnipresent to help the pointy end warfighters do their thing. And so that's what and I didn't really figure this out while I was actively doing both, but more so when I became a civilian, and now I have a different group of people trying to get a different mission done. It dawned on me that at the end of the day, it's just people trying to vector their energy into a sum vector that points in the positive direction, and not pulling energy that pulls you away from that total potential. So it doesn't matter if you're building a museum or fighting bad guys in Afghanistan mountains or trying to stay alive in a space environment. It's just people doing the best they can with what the resources that they have. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it was specific to SEAL training or astronaut training, but just in general, exposure to different units and different levels of leadership, and actually different leadership examples. We all have in our lives crummy examples and good examples, and you learn something from both of them. You're like, I don't want to be like that example. I want to be more like this one.
You saw probably examples of both.
I have. I sure have. Yeah.
Well, talk a little bit about as a Navy SEAL. I believe you were deployed to Afghanistan 2 weeks after 9/11, very shortly after 9/11. Tell us a little bit about what that was like. Just a crazy time in our country.
It was. I was assigned to SEAL Team 3, which is a West Coast SEAL team based in San Diego, and it's a little different now. But back then, each numbered SEAL team, there was a handful on the East Coast and a handful on the West Coast. There still are. Back then, each numbered SEAL team was responsible for a different geographic area of the world. And SEAL Team 3 was the Middle East. And so our group, our SEAL platoon, which is about 20 guys, we were supposed to deploy to the Middle East around Thanksgiving time of 2001. And the military cycle is kind of...
Before 9/11 even happened?
Yeah, so you're kind of a 2-year block, and the first year and a half you do training individually as a unit with other units. And then the last 6 months of your 2 years together is your overseas deployment. And so that for us was going to be in the Persian Gulf around Thanksgiving. Well, the whole year and a half preceding that, we were getting ready to deploy. And all of a sudden in August, at the end of August, we were done with all our requisite training and ready to go, combat ready unit going to that area. So when 9/11 happened a couple weeks later, we were the next trained group.
Yeah, you were ready.
We were ready to go. And so that particular day, you remember it was 9 a.m. Eastern time. So California, that's like 6 a.m. I was in the shower getting ready to go to work, and got out of the shower and saw the TV and said, okay, this is not going to be like a regular day at work. We're packing our gear today.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to come home at the end of the day. But in my mind, I was like, there's no way that the United States government can get hundreds of planes organized in 5 hours.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew we would go to work, pack our gear, and then just be standing by on our gear waiting to fly. And that's what happened. It took another 10 days, maybe 2 weeks to leave Coronado. And then we flew to Kuwait, a little bit of time in Kuwait, then to Oman. And we were in Oman for like a week, and then boom, right into Kandahar, Afghanistan.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. So you're done as a Navy SEAL. What was the thought process about becoming an astronaut? Was that even on your radar? Anything you had dreamed about or thought about? Kind of how you made that transition?
It was not something I had been thinking about. I met actually Bill Shepard, who was the first Navy SEAL to become an astronaut. You mentioned there's 3 of us. Shep, we call him, myself, and then Johnny Kim, who his first mission he launched. I just saw him last weekend. He's launching in a month for his first mission. So that's exciting. But I met Shep, and he's the one that kind of told me, yeah, you don't have to be a pilot. Anybody can apply. You just have to have a college degree, be a U.S. citizen, pass the medical exam, but you don't know if you're going to pass the medical. It's not like you do more push-ups and you pass medical. It's in you or it's not in you.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, well, shoot, what do I got to lose? Some time putting the application together, right?
You had retired from the Navy.
No.
You were still in. Okay, you were still in the Navy.
I was an active Navy guy.
Okay.
I had orders to move me I was in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. I had orders to move that summer to Bahrain. I was going to be duty stationed overseas with my family. And I thought, well, what the heck, let me try. And so I applied and I interviewed, and the interview seemed to go well. But I also remember, because they interview about 20 people at a time in Houston, and there's 6 or 7 weeks of those 20 people. And I remember thinking, man, any of these other 19 people just in my week would be amazing astronauts. And then there's all those other weeks too. Told my wife, like, we don't got to be looking in Zillow for houses in Houston, Texas. And so anyway, they for some reason they picked me. I don't know. Even having later in life been on the selection board side, it's really hard, because when you get down to that last bit, there's a lot of super qualified.
What age were you when this was happening, Chris?
I was 34. So
you were is that in the kind of the median age of astronauts?
I think it's exact. I don't have the data exactly, but if you drew a bell curve, 34, 35 is probably right at the top of the bell. Yeah. And, way down on the lower left-hand wing is probably 28, 29-year-old. Just takes that long to get the experience and education. And on the right side, the older side, I think we've picked a 45-year-old person before, but that's about the high upper end.
Well, tell us a little bit about what is it like being in space? Just some of the things we wouldn't think about as a civilian that you have to deal with in space.
There's so many ways to answer that question, because it's cool in all kinds of respects. There's the just giggly, happy feeling of floating. It turns 50-year-olds into 5-year-olds, floating around, doing cartwheels, throwing M&Ms at each other, and squirting the ball of water and sucking the straw right out of the air. Sucking the water right out of the air. Just fun, and never gets old. You're up there 6 months. Every morning you wake up and you kind of chuckle to yourself and go, I'm floating right now. Like, it's hard to wrap your brain around.
Do you, is there proof that the aging slows, speeds, that your facial hair, things weird that differently, and how they,
the normal human body stuff is exactly the same. Your fingernails growing, your hair growing,
all that's the same.
Your need to eat when you feel hungry, when you got to go to the bathroom, number 1 or 2, it all feels the same. Yeah. Swallowing a drink or swallowing food, it's all the same. Your body just does it. So that's one thing that's pretty normal. That doesn't take any adjustment. Going to sleep is a little bit different. You don't have a pillow, and you don't have like the comfy sensation of covers and your body just nestling into the mattress.
Kind of strapped in.
Yeah, you just float into a sleeping bag, zip it up, and close your eyes and try to tell yourself, okay, sleep now. And at the first couple of weeks, it just doesn't work. You're staring at the ceiling. Plus, you're thinking about all the stuff you got to do. And so the first couple of weeks, generally, people don't sleep that well. But then you get in a rhythm and routine, and you're fine. Yeah.
Well, how does being in space and just looking back at Earth, how does that impact your faith and just belief in God when you're up there and looking down at planet Earth, and pretty remarkable scene?
It is unbelievable. You're looking down at Earth, and the height, the altitude that we are at, which is about 250 to 300 miles, you're not high enough to see the whole circle like a marble.
Okay.
If you were, the simplest way to describe it is if you're in your automobile looking out the front window and drew an arc from the lower left driver's side to the lower right passenger side, and that was the horizon. Kind of that's what you're seeing. Yeah. And if you're looking straight down, and say you were over Mexico, you kind of see from New Orleans, maybe Dallas, Fort Worth, over to Baja California, and down into South America, kind of a footprint like that. And you're moving at 5 miles a second which is 90 minutes to go around the Earth completely. And in that 90 minutes, Earth rotates underneath you a little bit. So you're always seeing different stuff with every orbit. And then, of course, day and night and sun angle, it all illuminates different things. But it really, truly makes you feel like you're a crew member of Spaceship Earth.
Yeah.
And that sounds geeky and weird, but that's how it made me feel like, okay, we are all teammates and crewmates on this planet. Like the 6 of us on the International Space Station, we're crewmates.
Yeah.
You're crewmates with the people in your office. You're crewmates with your family and your loved ones. You're crewmates with the Leader Exchange. But we're all crewmates on Earth. And that's how it made me think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just remarkable views. I've heard you talk some about listening as an important part of leadership, the art of listening, and just tell us how that's developed. Maybe what experiences did you have good leaders that you thought were exceptional listeners?
Yeah, I mean, starting with coaches in different sports, I remember even as a young guy feeling like, okay, I like the feeling when my coach listens to the input that one of us has and feeling like he processed it. And whether we did that or not, it didn't matter. The feeling I liked was
he heard you.
He heard me.
Yeah.
He's processing it. He's got, I say he, all my coaches were he, but he or she, he's got other things and factors that I might not be aware of. And therefore it could lead to a decision that I might not have made in my own little bubble. But I liked the feeling of being listened to.
Yeah.
And
we all do.
We all do.
Yeah.
And I've had it where I felt like the leader didn't even hardly look at me and just kept on writing on their paper. Yeah. Okay. You see that in movies too, or whatever. You very clearly, those words fell on deaf ears and they don't care what you're saying. And that's a crummy feeling.
Yeah.
And so as a young guy, even that resonated with me. Okay. Listen to everybody. Everybody's got good stuff to say.
Yeah.
They just might not have the same information that everybody does. And that's what a unit does, is compile all that information so everybody has it. And the other thing I think about listening in that taking input is, and I learned this more at NASA, is the speed of a decision requirement. In some cases, you've got all the time in the world. We can sit back, we can analyze it to death. There's no urgency. And we can make a decision 2 days from now or tomorrow or a week from now. In other cases, the situation needs an answer like in the next 10 minutes. And in some cases like combat, you got to make a decision right this second.
Yeah.
If it's 50% right, so be it. Deal with the shift your rudder in 5 minutes when you have more information.
Yeah.
So I realized that then if those situations require urgent decision making and people don't know the rationale, I felt like good organizations would then back brief people. Hey, sorry, we didn't take everybody's input, but this is why we had to do that then when the situation calms down and you can do it.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple more questions. Let's shift to the kind of Medal of Honor Museum. And, so tell us, how did you get connected in that role? How did that kind of play out? I think I've heard you talk about it, but tell us a little bit how you got connected, and then a couple more questions.
A SEAL buddy of mine, we went through SEAL training together back when we were 22. He had did his SEAL career, got out, was in business, and then ended up on the Medal of Honor Museum board of the same organization I'm in. And because we were friends, he knew that I was getting out of the government, retiring from NASA and the Navy in that early 2021 timeframe. And he called me and said, hey, would you be interested in this? And, I kind of had personal momentum.
Where were you living at the time?
We were living in Houston. My wife also was retiring from NASA. So when the country is a white sheet of paper and you can live anywhere, it's, you really explore lots of ideas. And we jokingly thought our minds were east on I-10. We were thinking somewhere between like Destin to Tampa, somewhere in there, Pensacola maybe.
Yeah.
And then I came home one day and and said, no, it's going to be north on I-45. And so we joke around about that. But yeah, my friend said, would you be interested? And I said, sure. And I came up here and saw where the museum was proposed to be in Arlington, met the mayor, saw the enthusiasm that this community has, not just Arlington, but DFW as a whole, very supportive for our military. And because at first I was intimidated, like, I don't know how to raise $300 million. I can't do that. Never done that. Don't know how to do it. But I realized, okay, there's a lot of support, and it's not just up to me. It's going to, this community is going to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, it's a huge win for the Metroplex to have that museum, and I'm just excited to see it. Thank you for the tours you've given our group from Leader Exchange kind of early on during the construction. And so how do you see the Medal of Honor Museum impacting this community, really the youth, our next generation of leaders, as they hear the stories of these recipients? How do you kind of see this playing out to impact the next generation?
Yeah, that's really our mission, is to inspire the visitors through the stories of courage and sacrifice and commitment of Medal of Honor stories, but inspire that to transfer to the people in their normal everyday lives, and particularly our future of our country, which is our youth.
Yeah, future leaders.
Yeah, future leaders. So we've got the museum experience visit, which we as I mentioned, hope to impact people and connect with stories. We also have a leadership institute, which has a youth component and an adult component. We're already delivering and executing programs right now, even before the museum opens. In fact,
working with the schools in the area. Some of the curriculum.
On the youth side, in particular, we started out 2 years ago with the NFL has a program called Character Playbook.
Yeah.
And they allowed us to partner and add a Medal of Honor module to Character Playbook. And that's in 29,000 classrooms. And so we've been with that for 2 years already. This past fall in November, leading up to that, we were writing our own standalone program, and that piloted in Arlington ISD and Gunn Middle School, targeting right now is seventh and eighth graders. And that's a week-long program. And through a lot of advice and sage input from educators, and the former Arlington superintendent, Dr. Cavazos, said, hey, teachers got a lot on their plate. If you're going to be additive to their life, you need to make it easily implementable, fit into their day, and understand the teacher demands, and build your thing around that, which we did. And so it was a week-long program. And then this one will be associated with field trips. So there's already, I think, 13 ISDs that have signed up for field trips for next school year, great. Which is great. And then our next phase will be to scale it, because we want it to be a national program. So if it can't be field trip tied for kids in Maine or Iowa,
they still can hear these stories of the recipients.
That's what we're working on now, is how do we scale that to completely digital, and we've got all the workbooks and teacher guides and all that stuff's done. We can ship that to any school that wants it, and we've got Arlington ISD gave us great feedback, which we're incorporating into the next year round. So pretty excited about how it's going to, and that's all character-based, character on, focused on courage, commitment, integrity with yourself and others. Yeah.
And the grand opening date, tell us again, end of March?
March 25th is when we're open to the ticket-paying public. You can come with your family from that day on. The 22nd of March, the 25th is a Tuesday. Okay. 22nd is a Saturday night. There'll be a free to the public grand opening celebration with fireworks and drone show and military musicians. It's going to be pretty awesome, all right there in Arlington. Nice. Yeah.
Well, last question. We got to get upstairs here in a minute. So kind of when you look back on your life and your accomplishments, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of?
I have always tried to be somebody that people would want to go camping with, and I think I am. All the other stuff is just stuff, but if you're enjoyable to be around, I think this about others, if you're enjoyable to be around, that's more important than anything else.
Well, thank you again, Chris. That wraps up our podcast today with Chris Cassidy. Again, this is our kickoff podcast for our spring speaker series, and we'll be back next month in March with Brad McCoy as our guest speaker for Leader Exchange. Thank you.